That's what we're going to talk about in today's show. The question is, does everyone have a guardian angel? Now, I've worded this specifically because the question is not, are there angels that guard us? Are there angels that are assigned to humans for a purpose of guarding us? No, the question is, does each and every one of us have a specific angel assigned to us, our own guardian angel? So there'd be a J. Warner Wallace guardian angel, and whatever your name is, you'd have your own assigned guardian angel. That's the question, and lots of times people will draw their inferences about this question from pop culture or from movies rather than from Scripture. So we're going to try to make the case from Scripture. And I'm just going to tell you up front, where do I land on this? I'm conflicted about it, and I'll tell you why, because there's some evidence on both sides. And so rather than spend the entire 28 minutes telling you why I hold a particular position, I'm going to show you the evidence, and you can make your own inference. And look, I'm going to, in the end, I think you'll see that where I land specifically, but I want you to see the case that people make for everyone having their own personal guardian angel. Now, I've written about this on a webpage at our coldcasechristianity.com website, and it's one of the more popular articles we've posted there. And you can see it's called, Does Everyone Have a Guardian Angel? If you just type in the word angel in the search engine at coldcasechristianity.com, you're going to see all of our articles about angels and angelic beings. But this one is one of the most popular because people are fascinated with the idea about having a guardian angel. So let me just build the case for you, and you can decide on your own whether or not you think each one of us is assigned a guardian angel. Now, I'm going to make the case, as people typically do, from both the Old and New Testament. So I want to show you what people will point to when they're making the case for a guardian angel. So let's start with a passage in the Old Testament. Now, this is a passage from the book of Daniel, chapter 6. Daniel is just being released from the lion's den. The king comes to him and he says, the scripture says, when the king, he had come near the den to Daniel, he cried out with a troubled voice. The king spoke and said to Daniel, Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you constantly serve, been able to deliver you from the lions? Then Daniel spoke to the king, O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, and they have not harmed me, inasmuch as I was found innocent before him, and also toward you, O king, I have committed no crime. Then the king was very pleased and gave orders for Daniel to be taken up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no injury whatever was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. Now, look at this verse for a second, in those first few lines, or actually right in the middle there, where it says that God sent his angel. So look. Is it clear that God sent an angel to help Daniel, to guard Daniel? Yeah, it is. Does that mean that Daniel had a specific guardian angel assigned to him? Well, no, it says his angel referring to God's angel. So this doesn't even really by itself make a case that each of us has a guardian angel. Not only that, even if Daniel did have a guardian angel, even if he was assigned, if it said specifically his personal guardian angel named Jack happened to help him out, okay, that still would not mean that all of us have assigned. Remember, be careful not to draw the conclusion that because you see one person in Scripture doing something, receiving something, claiming something, whatever, it means that all of us are therefore privileged to the same promise or the same claim. It's specific in the context of Scripture to who it is talking about. And this is Daniel. God clearly sent a guardian angel to Daniel. But nothing in this really by itself. Now look, this does not mean that there's not a case to be made for personal guardian angels. I'm just saying that this by itself would not make the case. Now, keep in mind that when you make circumstantial cumulative cases, like all of my jury trials, look, those things are cumulative and circumstantial. So in other words, if you could take any one little piece of the cumulative case out and you can pick it apart and say, well, that thing by itself doesn't prove anything. Well, yeah, it's part of a larger cumulative case. So let's take a look at some of the other verses that are used to make the case for God's for each of us having a personal guardian. Let's stay in the Old Testament, and we'll go now, instead of in Daniel, let's hop over and take a look at 2 Kings. We're going to be in 2 Kings chapter 6, verses 13 to 17. Now, what's interesting here is the king of Aram who is talking now about Elisha. So when it says he, it's the king of Aram, said, "Go and see where he is, that I may send and seize him." it was told him, behold, he is in Dothan. So he sent there horses and chariots and a great army, and they came by night and surrounded the city, so meaning to do harm to Elisha. When the servant of the man of God, Elisha, rose early in the morning and went out, behold, an army with horses and chariots was all around the city. And the servant said, alas, my master, what shall we do? He said, don't be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them. Then Elisha prayed and said, oh Lord, please open his eyes that he may see. So the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. So here again, we have a couple of interesting things. Clearly, if the question is, does God use angels to guard Elisha? Yes. Did God use an angel to guard Daniel? Yes. Does this mean that all of us then would have a similar set of angels? Number one, no, that would not be the case necessarily. Daniel and Elisha might be in a different category than you and me. So it doesn't speak to whether or not we have guardian angels. Also, did you notice that it's not like there's a one-on-one assignment? Maybe you could argue that for Daniel, but you really can't argue that for Elisha, right? Because he is surrounded by an army of angelic beings. So this would kind of not necessarily, does that mean that all of us then have an army of angel? This is my point. Does God protect us with angels? Yes, of course. That's not the question. The question is, are you personally assigned a guardian angel? That's different. Not trying to be too nitpicky, but let's be careful about how we use these concepts when we're talking to non-believers especially, because they're getting their set of ideas about Christianity from non-Christian sources. We don't need to be getting our ideas about Christianity from non-Christian sources, do we? So let's take a look at another couple of verses that are often used to make a case for guardian angels. Now we're going to go to the New Testament. So let's jump into the New Testament in the Gospel of Matthew, Matthew 18. This is pretty helpful, I think. This is what is said. This is Jesus, of course, talking. See that you do not despise one of these little ones, talking about the children around him. For I say to you that their angels in heaven continually behold the face of my Father who is in heaven. Oh, that sounds closer, doesn't it? Now we're being told by Jesus himself that children, humans, have guardian. There's children, plural, and there are angels, plural. Does this mean there's a one-on-one relationship for each child to an angel? No. Also, does it mean that remember, what the angels in this passage are being told is not that they are in a guardian position. Clearly, you could take that from the context, but what they're really doing is they are beholding the face of the Father. This is what these angels are doing. So does this mean that all of us, this is closer, I think. Now again, remember, when you make a case for guardian angels, you're making it cumulatively from all of Scripture. So you have to add this to the Old Testament passages. And let's just do one more passage that seems, that I think a lot of people will really pin on when they're making a case for personal one-on-one guardian angels. And this is found also in the New Testament in the book of Acts. Acts 12, verses 13 to 17. And when he knocked at the door of the gate, a servant girl named Rhoda, this is Paul coming back, this is Peter coming back and knocking at the door of the gate of a house in the book of Acts. A servant girl named Rhoda came to answer, and when she recognized Peter's voice, because of her joy, she did not open the gate, but ran in and announced that Peter was standing in front of the gate. And they said to her, "You're out of your mind." But she kept insisting that it was so, and they kept saying, "It is his angel." But Peter continued knocking, and when they had opened the door, they saw him and were amazed. Now here it does appear that the author, Luke, is saying that Peter, or at least this group, believed that Peter had are they talking about a guardian angel here? Is there some other way that this terminology in this verse, the way it's used in this context, means something other than like an angelic being? It's hard. I think this is a closer match to the concept. But again, the fact that Peter and Daniel and Elisha would have maybe special protection from God in the context of what they are doing right now in the history of Judaism and Christianity does not mean that we can infer that we have something going on that's similar, that we have the same kind of assignment. But when you add this to the idea that children have angels, you get close, don't you think? Can you see now why you have to make an inference? Now, by the way, these are non-essential issues, but we are allowed to look at Scripture and kind of make an inference. The only thing we have to do is be able to help people see why we are making this inference evidentially from Scripture. Now, I've done that as quickly as I can to get through 4 verses Actually, I think 4 verses, 2 Old Testament, 2 New Testament, that kind of describe why people can try to infer that we each have our own personal guardian angels. I want to show you why I just gave you the 4 verses, right, that are used in the Old and New Testament that people often use to make a cumulative case for the existence of personal guardian angels. If you're a believer, if you're a Christian, you kind of would make your case, right, not just from TV, not from your own intuition. You make the case from the evidence of Scripture. And the early Christians did this too. And they have a tendency to step off beyond the biblical evidence, if you ask me. Well, don't ask. You'll see for yourself. I'm going to read to you some of the writings of the earliest church fathers who described their own views, their own conclusions that they drew either from Scripture, but also, you got to be careful, sometimes they would draw these from traditions that were emerging in the early church and that weren't necessarily based in Scripture. So let's just be honest about that. Let's take a look at some of the early church fathers to see. And remember, these are, I'm not taking the perspective. A lot of these are when I say early church fathers, what I mean are the early church leaders of Christianity, before even, sometimes they're before, sometimes slightly after, Christianity was accepted by the Roman Empire as the Edict of Milan or the Edict of Thessalonica, in which Christianity was no longer being persecuted and became the religion of the empire. It's true that the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church, will often trace its roots back to these same leaders. But as Christians, we also trace. If you aren't a Catholic and you say, well, I'm not part of that tradition, well, these are often church leaders that preceded the tradition or were very early in the tradition. So let's at least hear what they have to say. Here's the first one we're going to cite, and it is from Clement of Alexandria. This is in 217 AD. Here's what he says. The thoughts of virtuous men are produced by divine inspiration. The soul is disposed in the way it is, and the will of God is conveyed to human souls by special divine ministers who assist in such service. For regiments of angels are distributed over nations and cities, and perhaps some even are assigned to particular individuals. Now, I've included this quote from Clement of Alexandria. Now, for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's in the early 3rd century. And what's great about that, this is 100 years before Constantine, more than 100 years before Constantine issues the Edict of Milan, ending hostility toward Christians, and well before the Edict of Thessalonica, making Christianity the religion of the empire. And can you see that early in history, someone like Clement of Alexandria, a church leader in North Africa, would have some pause. He says, perhaps we have assigned our own personal angels. He's not sure. He's also, why isn't he sure? Because he's trying to derive his belief in guardian angels from the evidence of Scripture. And like I showed you, the evidence can be inferred a couple different ways. So is it possible? Is it maybe even reasonable? Sure. And he's kind of thinking this way, but it does not mean it is so. It just means that the earliest church leaders, when they're thinking about these issues, they make similar statements that we're making today. So let's go ahead and take a look at another early church leader, Origen. Now, this is now a little later, this is a couple decades later. He says, to every man there are 2 attending angels. Now, hold on, I'm just going to tell you, we'll come back to it, but that's a big jump, right, from what we've read so far in Scripture. 2 attending angels, the one of justice and the other of wickedness. If there be good thoughts in our heart, and if righteousness be welling up in our soul, it can scarcely be doubted that an angel of the Lord is speaking to us. If, however, the thoughts of our heart are turned to evil, an angel of the devil is speaking to us. You know, you've seen that, right? You've seen those cartoons and movies in which you've got the evil Jim standing, sitting here on this shoulder, and the good Jim angel standing on this shoulder, and they're kind of, where do you think that comes from? Well, it's pretty early. But is Origen deriving this? Where's he getting this from? Can you see how even within a few decades, there's some tradition seeping into the understanding of these leaders? I don't know how you can make this case from Scripture. It would be a pretty weak case if you made anything similar to this. So again, now do we hold, or do early believers then start to ground their beliefs about guardian angels on the Scripture, or now are they grounding them on the teaching of leaders? You got to be careful, right? Let's take a look at another early church father. This is a little later in history. Now we're after this is early in the Roman Catholic Church, Saint Basil the Great. All the angels, having but one appellation, have likewise among themselves the same nature, even though some of them are set over nations, while others of them are guardians to each one of the faithful. It almost seems to me like Basil's reading Clement of Alexandria. because the order in which he describes this, right? So again, this is why sometimes you gotta be careful not to jump off into the traditions of men rather than using the teaching of Scripture as your basis for understanding. So I just want to show how this ends up. I'm looking at my notes here. How this ends up forming itself out in the early Catholic Church. So let's just take a look at a couple of catechisms of the early church. Here's one in the Council of Trent. Now we're in the 16th century. Here's what it says. Now this is a decision that people are starting to make about the nature of angels. By God's perfect providence, angels have been entrusted with the office of guarding the human race and of accompanying every human being in order to preserve him from serious dangers. Our Heavenly Father has placed over each of us an angel under whose protection and vigilance we may be enabled to escape the snares secretly prepared by our enemy. I'm going to stop right there. Okay, now we are clearly into a point in history in which guardian angels assigned in a one-on-one relationship, that's just like the norm. That's just becoming the teaching of the Catholic Church. And that is still persists today. So it really, though, if you look at this, it seems like it's grounded more. This emphatic Scripture is much less clear about the existence of personal guardian angels than the teaching of the early Church Fathers and the Roman Catholic Church. Clearly. So the question becomes, you've seen the evidence, the biblical evidence. If you've got more, I'm pretty sure there's more you can find. But my point is, I don't care where you look in Scripture, the case you build for the existence of a personal guardian angel will be much less emphatic if it's based only on Scripture than it would be if you accepted the traditions of the Catholic Church. Let's just be fair about this. That's just the way it is. As a matter of fact, Catholicism still teaches this. The Catechism of the Catholic Church in 1992 said it this way: from infancy to death, human life is surrounded by their watchful care and intercession. Beside each believer stands an angel as protector and shepherd, leading him to life. Already here on earth, the Christian life shares by faith in the blessed company of angels and men united in God. So there's still a belief in Roman Catholicism that each of us has a guardian angel. That's no reason to either accept that as a claim or to reject that as a claim, right? In the end, I am not going to accept or reject a claim about guardian angels based on the teaching of any church or any group in history. I'm going to go back to the source material, which is Scripture.